Assalamu alaikum. This video is about climate change. It's important that I talk about certain topics such as war, climate change, wrong seeming right, etc., religion, because my intent is to reach my people, that you may be called African American, Black, Negroes, etc., descendants of slaves are who I'm targeting. Now, for those of you who may or may not recognize some of the deeper meanings of the climate change, or what they've titled as climate change, extreme weather conditions, etc., that's what I'm going to talk to you about. I'm going to talk to you about that because I am a warner, and so it's important for you to know what this all means. What you're seeing today is actually the coming of hail. This is the formation of hail. Climate change, temperatures getting much hotter. Now, you're seeing some of what is called extreme weather conditions. You may see extreme rain, extreme storms, extreme hurricanes, extreme floods, extreme extreme tornadoes. A lot of these things is what you're seeing now. And the reason being is because the ultimate extreme is going to be heat. Heat is what's really going to take out this world. All these things you're seeing now, this is just a shaking, what we call the shaking and the awakening on the earth. Now, for those of you who may be a little more in tune to what's going on and what's happening in the world in relation to climate change, my warning to you is that take heed, okay, because this is real. This is happening. We don't have much longer, and that's why I'm trying to bring you into this fold. I've talked to you about the Cherubim Federation. I've talked to you about other things. Now, climate change. Let's talk about the heat. Now, for those of you who've been watching television over the past week, you know that many places have witnessed some of the most extreme, hottest temperatures that they've ever seen. Now, it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. That's something that you need to know and you need to understand. This is not something that is going to get better. It's only going to get worse. Now, here's the thing, okay? There are certain scriptures that are talked about, some of the signs of the last days when we are approaching the very final day. And these are some of the signs. If you go back and read the Dead Sea Scrolls, if you go back and find some of the original, even biblical texts of Old Testaments and New, from my brother Esau. And for those of you who may not know who I'm talking about when I say Esau, peace and blessings be upon him, I'm referring to the prophet whom the Europeans mimicked as Jesus. Okay? His original name was Esau. And so what we have to understand is that of all the lessons and the signs that he gave us, there are many others who gave signs as well, such as the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, who gave signs of the end times in the last days. This extreme weather that we're witnessing here is part of those signs, okay? Another thing is that you got to understand about this is that Europeans are not meant to understand the full scope of what's causing this. They want to equate it 100% to fossil fuels. Well, but that's not true. There are several things that are weighing in on this. Solar panels, satellites, okay, are also contributing to this. And not only that, cellular signals are contributing to climate change. Solar panels. Solar panels, and the reason I'm speaking on this is because I had the opportunity. I had a contract where I installed solar panels for about 2 years. These solar panels was the ones that, for any of you who may have seen the black cameras out on the highways with the black poles and the black solar panels on them, those are flock panels and cameras. Flock typically leases the signals out, or leases the security out to the local municipalities. Sheriff's departments, farmers' home associations normally incorporate them into their strategies for certain neighborhoods. But city police departments as well. But they're mostly monitored through the sheriff departments. Now, before getting this contract, I had to learn solar. I had to get solar certified in not heavy, but to a minor medium degree of solar. So I learned how solar works. I learned how it pulls, et cetera, et cetera. Solar panels don't just sit there waiting for sun to hit it and say, "Oh, I got some sun. Let me take it in and transfer it into a battery or to a generator." That's not exactly how it works, because solar panels consistently pull in that energy. Consistent pulls it in. It never stops. Now, that energy that it's pulling in is some of the same energy that trees need and you and I need. Okay? And so it affects the atmosphere as well. Now, another thing that we have to understand about solar is that there are just millions of solar panels on the face of the earth today. Solar farms. There are solar farms popping up everywhere. And then in some of the solar farms that you may see, some of the smaller ones here in the South. But if you go into other countries and other places, you can see huge amounts of solar farms. Huge solar farms, huge numbers. And so people say that the sun is infinity. The sun is basically, it gives, just nonstop. Well, true and false. Yeah, when the sun is there, the sun is there. But now, what you have to understand is that when trees and people have to compete with that energy, then it causes a problem, which could be in the way of weakening immune systems, either allowing viruses to pop up a strand more potent, and things of that such. Now, if we take a little bit further, let's look at satellite systems. For an example, Elon Musk's satellite system, Starlink. Well, Starlink satellite sits just a little bit lower in our orbit than the regular satellites do, than the other satellites. These satellites sits about half the distance of the others. Now, in orbit. Now, I am about to say something that a lot of people dispute me on, but logically it proves to be true. One of the main reasons why you got so many airplanes that are crashing is because of the Starlink systems. And it makes logical sense, because when we get on a plane, one of the first things we're told is to put our phones on airplane mode, because they don't want any interference, okay, in the systems. Well, if you know how Starlink works, and I know how Starlink works because I install Starlinks. I'm in technology, so I know how Starlinks work. Starlinks will give you any given day 200 gigabytes of speed, of download speed, any given day. 200 right around 200 gigabytes, if not more. I've seen some give 500, 600, 700 gigabytes. of download speed. That's a very, very, very good signal. Okay, even 200 is good. 100 is good. 100 is enough for us to do anything in our home we need to do. Even if we're streaming games, if there's 3 people in the home streaming games at the same time, 100 gigabytes will handle that. Okay, so no one tells Starlink to shut off its satellite systems. Satellite systems are on all the time. Okay, so it's very, very likely and possible that these Starlink systems can be causing interference with other planes, with the systems on other planes. Okay, now nothing I'm saying can be proven. What I talk is simply logic, but I believe that my logic will be proven true over a period of time, and I know most of it will. Now, if we think about this for a moment, we have to know and understand that where the world is going, all of this has been prophesized. It was prophesied that planes would be falling from the sky. By definition of how they wrote it then. That's how we know what it is now. It was relating to planes falling from the sky. So all these things that are taking place now, these are signs of the times, or what some people consider signs of the times. Now, these signs of the times, again, where we're coming from, is all related to at some point or another. Okay, because the world has come out of the judgment period. Now the world is in the final judgment period, and I believe I went over that once before. Whenever a major atrocity hits a country like the United States, there's a sign in that. Okay, there's a sign for those of you who know, who have learned. The Great Depression, 1929, and also the Great Dust Bowl, which shut the American economy down. Okay, 2019, 2020, COVID, again, shut the American system down. That's when we went in 1929, the United States and the world went into the final judgment period, went into the judgment period. 29 to 2019, which is actually the year COVID started, was 2019, not 2020. That's why it's called COVID-19, COVID-19, because that's when it's actually started. It didn't start in 2020. There were people who was getting ill and was dying in 2019. So, with that being clear, so now you know and understand that 2020, 2019 signified another period, okay, another changing of the guards, and that's when we went into the final judgment period in 2019. Okay, so now it's 2026. Okay, and we're moving on. But what we have to understand is that from the final judgment period, from the judgment period to the final judgment period, okay, is not going to be that long. These are considered the final judgment period, the first judgment period, considered a generation, which was about 90 years. Okay, now understand something too about the final judgment period. The first slave ship hit the United States of Americas in 1619. That's when the first slave ship hit. From 1619 to 2019, okay, is about 400 years. Okay, now 400 years was the time when that, because not only did we go into the final judgment period, but that's the period when Satan or Shaitan has to release the contract of God's people, you and I. Okay, so after 2019, that contract ended. They no longer have the powers to, I guess you can say, I'm trying to find a word for this that is very, very simple, because I like to keep things simple, plain. Okay, I guess you can say they no longer have that hold, okay, of that authority over us anymore. Okay, so now they can actually, the final judgment period represents a period when we have to either come together and come back to God, or we have to go with them. And for those of you who may not know, I hope you do know, but if you just in case you don't, let me say this. For those of you who don't know what that means to go with them, that means to enter hellfire. Okay? Now, the earth is heating up. No doubt about it. Anybody can see that. But the thing about it is that the rulers of the world and the Europeans, they don't know, they don't understand what this really means. They think it's just a period in which, well, something we're going through. And they'll use the terms, that, well, they're resilient and that they will pull through this. Okay? They will find a way to curb this climate change of extreme weather and rising temperatures. They honestly believe that they're going to find a solution. If you look at some of the documentaries, they'll talk about how some of the things that they're changing and that they're doing. They're going from fewer fossil burning vehicles to more electric vehicles. Okay, electric vehicles. But do you know what it requires? Okay, to build and to keep an electric vehicle running and on the road, because they use batteries. Batteries use an enormous amount of cobalt. Okay, lithium. All these things that they have to dig out of the earth. So the more electric vehicles they build, the more they have to dig into the earth and dig, which is going to create another problem. Okay, going to create the problem, of earthquakes, because you're tampering with something. Lithium is something that is found underground, and it saturates with a liquid. Okay? For those of you who may not quite know what lithium is and how lithium or where lithium comes from, I encourage you to do a little study, do a little researching so you can find out what lithium is. What they don't understand, though, is that the lithium in the waters under there, that lithium sets in, is something that is used to cool the earth crust. It's like a radiator. The fluid in your radiator that helps to maintain a stable temperature of your engine. Okay, so once they start pulling that lithium out of the earth, it creates another problem. It causes the earth to overheat. Okay, and now the glaciers. Now the glaciers are melting. For those of you who don't know that, research it. Pull up a YouTube video or something. Look at it. Watch a video on climate change, the glaciers melting. In the Greenlands, Arctics, where you see where the glaciers are constantly melting. Now, here's something you got to keep in mind. And the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because I'm trying to help you to open up your hearts. Okay? Open your breasts. Okay, so that you can come into an understanding and that you can join on with the Federation, okay, rather than going the other way. Now, these glaciers are melting. And the reason why these glaciers are melting is because of climate change. The earth is constantly heating up. They started in 1950, around 1950, monitoring climate change and glaciers. 1950 to they set a goal. They said, well, we know they're melting. They said, well, by 1960 they would have melted this much. By 1970 they would have melted by this percentage. By 1980 by this percentage, etc., etc. But what they found out was that by the year 2000, they learned that the glaciers was melting 3 times as fast as what they had predicted. They had no intention, they had no idea that the glaciers would be melting as fast as they are. So now the glaciers have melted to a point now where it's almost like a runaway train, out of control, and they don't know how to stop it. Okay, so now some of you may say, well, so what? So what? The glaciers are melting. Well, here's why. See, the world gets 80. I think it's about 84% of its, and maybe a little more, 84% of its natural fresh water, from glaciers. Fresh water comes from glaciers. Okay. Also, Another thing is when these glaciers melt, these glaciers changes the ecosystem of the oceans and the sea. Okay, they changes that. Then fresh water starts to mix with salt water. Okay, now for those of you who may be a little more in tune with astrology, aquatics, the solar system, you will know that the ocean and the moon has a balance. And when that balance is disturbed or becoming ruptured in some kind of way, then it causes other problems. Okay? And that's another reason why we have certain climate change, extreme conditions. It's because of that. Now, another thing that happens when these glaciers starts to melt is the sea rise. The seas start to rise. Okay? And when seas start to rise, it creates other problems. Okay? For example, people who live near coastal areas, they find themselves having to either raise their homes or move. There's areas along the eastern seaboard that is called Ghost Islands, or Ghost Forest. I think they call it Ghost Forest, not Ghost Island, Ghost Forest. And the reason why it's called Ghost Forest, and look that word up as well, the reason why it's called Ghost Forest is because the salt water is pushing onto the land. And the land cannot survive with salt water on it. So the vegetation and the trees die. Okay, because it's salt water. Okay. Another thing about the salt water is going to eventually start getting into the freshwater systems in the land. When that happens, people are going to become ill from drinking salt water. And at first, they're not going to know the salt water is getting in. They won't have a clue. But in the final days, and after the day of judgment, the water will be so salty everywhere. In what little water you'll be able to find, that it will have the people crazy. Now, once the salt water mixes, the fresh water and salt water mix, a lot of the animals that live in salt water will die. Okay, so you'll start to see different animals, carcasses washing up on the seas, on the seashores, etc., etc. Not only that, but some of the animals will go mad and become more aggressive because the food shortages are there. So they'll begin, if they see people, they'll eat people. You'll find crocodiles eating people. You'll find more and more sharks attacks. Things like that is what you'll find. And it's all because of how Europeans have screwed up the world and the atmosphere and nature. Okay? I encourage you to join the Federation. Okay? Look it up. All right? Stay tuned so that you can see, hear, and know what needs to be done and what you need to do. Thank you for listening. Till next time, peace and blessings to you.